7. I grunt when my body hits the hard concrete floor, the impact jerking me awake. Black spots dance in front of my eyes as the orderlies retreat for the hallway, the echo of their footsteps rattling around in my brain like loose screws shaken free of their bearings. My fingers dig into my aching skull as the locking mechanism of the door clicks into place, trapping me once again in my prison. My arms shudder beneath me when I push myself up, my elbows giving out under my weight when a stabbing in my temples drags me down to the floor. With each stab, I'm assaulted by what I saw in the laboratory, the images burnt into the backs of my eyelids, ensuring I can never escape them. My eyes squeeze shut as my body convulses, and in my head I see the man from my vision again. The silence between us is filled with those same 3 bewildering words he muttered before. "I'm sorry, Wynter." I press my cheek against the cold concrete and draw in one deep breath, then another. Gradually, the stabbing in my temples recedes. As the pain fades away, the stranger's face dissolves into darkness. My eyes flutter open, my blurred vision slowly adjusting to the familiar surroundings of my room, my cell. As it all shifts back into focus, I glance at the table at the end of the bed. My mouth and throat are so dry, the muscles are spasming, tightening like a hand around my neck. I can barely breathe past the sensation. Desperate for water, I claw my way toward the table, dragging my limp legs behind me. The drugs Dr. Richter's underlings sedated me with have worn off a little, leaving my body paralyzed only from the waist down. A slight improvement, but still crippling enough that relief eludes me. Between my unbearable thirst and the worrying, periodic pain eating away at my brain, Dr. Richter seems surprisingly determined to let me suffer for someone who claims to want me alive. Fresh beads of sweat rise across my flaming skin, and my head is spinning by the time I cross the room to the glossy white table. With the last of my strength, I fling my hand onto the computerized surface, blindly pressing the touchscreen. As my fingers slip away, a robotic arm descends from the ceiling with what I hope will be my salvation. To my relief, the arm places a transparent cup on the table, which I can see is filled almost to the brim with water. I reach for it hungrily and slump against the side of the bed, downing the cure for my thirst within seconds, and without once stopping to take a breath. The instant I'm finished, my fingers slacken, and I drop the plastic cup to the floor. Exhausted, I lean my head against the stiff mattress and close my eyes, eager to sleep off the events of today before the orderlies return tomorrow, and I have to go through it all over again. Despite my fatigue, the memory of what I saw replays in my head on a loop, nagging at me. I can't shut it out any more than I could shut out a screeching alarm drilling into my ears. Who was that man I saw? Why was he sorry? How does he know me? Or if what I saw was the future like Dr. Richter claims, how will he know me? The part I struggle to wrap my head around most is the idea of the man being a member of Phoenix. If that's true, that means he's a terrorist, an insurgent, an enemy of the state. And if what I saw in my vision is real, then I have to assume this means I will eventually have ties to Phoenix as well. But how? I'll never leave this place alive, and no one is coming to save me. There's no way our paths would ever cross. Besides, I've always played by the rules. I'm not a rebel. I don't want to stand out. I don't want to fight back against the state or join a renegade organization, despite what I've been through here. All I want is to survive. In the midst of my frantic thoughts, it occurs to me that this is the first time I've actually been able to put a face to someone in Phoenix, Their arrests and executions are never broadcast on the news, so we don't give them the infamy they yearn for, my mother explained when I once asked her why. All we, the law-abiding citizens of the state, know is that the organization is comprised of criminals who would do anything and go to any lengths to ensure the collapse of society. I guess I've always figured its members would look the part they've been typecast to play, the role of a monster. But that man, Ezra Laramie, he seemed normal, for lack of a better word. Grief-stricken, panicked even, but normal. The way he stared at me with that pleading expression, tears sliding down his cheeks. Is that what a monster would look like? Doubt spreads over my skin. Throughout my 18 years in this world, I've been guided and shaped by the information supplied by the state and by the adults who know better than me. But now I can't help wondering how much of what I've been force-fed my whole life is true. Even worse, how much of it was a lie. I've never questioned the state's teachings before. I've never had cause to. Until now. Suddenly, I'm overwhelmed by the desire to find out the truth of this world for myself, to discover what's happening to me, to unbury the facts concerning the society we live in, to learn the truth about Phoenix. I need to separate fact from fiction, and I think I know where to look for those answers. The only path forward is to track down Ezra Laramie, if not to get the answers I seek, then to find out why he appeared in my vision. There has to be a reason. Besides, searching for Phoenix, fearsome terrorist group or not, seems like a better alternative than staying here and suffering through another one of Dr. Richter's experiments. I can't go back in that laboratory. Not after what I've just seen, or what Dr. Richter and his lackeys put me through today. Regardless of whether they plan to kill me or simply run more tests, I can't take any more. So I need to escape. But how? No one leaves the DSD alive, and I can't exactly fight my way out. Plus, there's the other glaring issue. Even if I do manage to escape, how will I find Ezra Laramie? The answer strikes me with the same intensity as before, and on reflex my body doubles over as a sensation unlike anything I've ever felt before explodes inside my brain. I'm too tired to scream, so I bite down on my tongue to distract myself from what feels like my skull splitting open. Blood pools in my mouth, and the metallic taste is almost pleasant compared to the pain. As the stabbing in my head eases, the square gray room fades into the inky blackness of what looks to be a narrow street. The shine of halogen lights reflects off the broken asphalt from a dingy bar in the distance, pushing back the gloom. Even from the opposite end of the street, I can read the sign over the door with ease. The Vega. Each glowing letter flickers in turn as the bulbs buzz with a sinister hum. I glance at a signpost behind my left shoulder, printed with the location name B42. The rusting metal also bears the circular symbol representing Zone 7. A cry swells in my throat as the pressure inside my brain reemerges and expands outward, beating against the walls of my skull as if searching for an escape. Or maybe it's just determined to cause me as much pain as possible. In my ears, I hear the unmistakable sound of glass shattering, and as a scream rips from my lungs, I lurch backward, a ringing vibration filling my head when it slams into something hard behind me. My chest heaves as my gaze moves across my fuzzy surroundings, noting the cold gray walls of my cell. Bed. My head hit the bed. My eyes flick up to what remains of the mirror above the sink, then down to the floor, where the rest of the glass lies scattered around my feet in large fragments. How did it break? Confusion barrels through me as I reach out a shaking hand and carefully pick up a shard. A shallow network of cracks spreads over the glass like a spider web, distorting what I can see of my face. The whites of my eyes are blood red again, and my pupils are blown wide, reducing the green and blue irises to a thin, barely visible rim. I gape at my reflection in horror. How long have I looked like this? Days? Weeks? Or is my appearance a result of today's successful experiment? Either way, what's happening to me? What has Dr. Richter done? Clutching the jagged shard in my hand, I allow my head to flop back against the mattress and snap my eyes shut, lacking the energy to face all these questions right now. Time passes in a fitful daze as I drift in and out of consciousness. I'm not sure how long I stay this way, but eventually the feeling returns to my numb legs, rousing me a little. It's the shrill staccato of beeps outside the door that shakes me fully awake. My body tenses as my gaze moves from the closed door to the security camera in the corner to my left. The red light is still blinking, watching me. But if I'm going to escape, it's now or never. I might not survive the next experiment. I turn, squaring my back to the camera, and wedge the glass shard in my hand beneath the mattress while resting my cheek on the blanket. To the unsuspecting eye, it will look like I've just moved into a more comfortable position to sleep. Hopefully. The door springs open at the same moment my hand drops to my side. Forcing a yawn, I make a show of opening my eyes, blinking sleepily at the tall female attendant in the doorway. To my complete lack of surprise, her blank expression matches the emotionless demeanor displayed by everyone else I've encountered here. Hell, it's the same look I've noticed on almost everyone throughout my life. Everyone except my father. The woman spares a quick glance at the shards on the floor, a hint of curiosity raising one thin brow before she looks back up at me. Dr. Richter would like to speak with you. Once you're dressed, I will escort you to meet him. She watches my every move with predatory focus as I push up from the floor, trying to find my balance on shaking legs that seem hell-bent on not supporting my weight. Trembling, I reach for the pants folded on the bedspread behind me, taking my time to slide them on underneath the sweat-soaked gown as I try to figure out my next plan of action. When I raise my arms to change into the starchy gray shirt, my body spasms, and I have to bite my lip to keep from crying out. A fresh pair of shoes sit beside my bed, the first I've noticed in weeks, which I slip my feet into, suppressing a whimper. "Follow me," the woman says, her tone clipped. As she turns into the hallway, my gaze falls to the mattress. Now or never, I remind myself. I let out a breath and drop to one knee, yanking the shard out from its hiding place and tucking it inside the left sleeve of my shirt. The woman reappears in the doorway, annoyance creasing her brow, just as I press the glass flat to my wrist. I quickly look down at the floor and pretend to adjust the heel of my shoes. After a convincing delay, I rise and follow her out into the otherwise empty corridor. The path we tread is familiar, even though I've only walked it once before. Eventually, we stop beside the closed door of our destination, one of many in an identical sea of doors, but only one out of a few that I fear. The woman enters the unlocking code into the keypad, each piercing beep like the smash of a hammer driving into my skull. When the door slides open, my eyes fall on Dr. Richter, who is already inside the room waiting for me. "Take a seat," he orders. I look back over my shoulder at the woman, but I only catch a glimpse of her face before the door slides shut between us. Curling my fingers over the shard in my sleeve, I shuffle over to the chair opposite Dr. Richter. He gives me a quick once-over. "You look like hell." I clench my jaw. What have you done to me? He removes his glasses and wipes the lenses clean on the lapel of his white coat. I haven't done anything that your body wouldn't have naturally embraced on its own. I merely sped up the process. My mouth goes dry. What do you mean? Dr. Richter meets my gaze with a smirk, returning his glasses to their perch on his nose. You are evolving, developing abilities, those unlike you can only dream of possessing. Although I was uncertain of it before, this last trial has confirmed my suspicions. You are precisely what I thought you would be. What, not who, I note. You said I wouldn't be harmed. You said I would be treated with civility. Yes, he admits, interrupting me with a shrug. But sacrifices must always be made for the advancement of science. Sacrifices? I nearly scream. How can he act so apathetic about what they've done to me? What he's done to me? What I went through was torture, plain and simple. Not that I shouldn't have seen it coming, considering that's what the DSD is known for. I chew on my lower lip for a moment, mulling over the questions piling up in my head. Is what he said true? Would the changes happening in my body have occurred anyway, even without his experiments? Was this pain, this agony, always inevitable? Dr. Richter's voice is like a slap to the face, pulling me from the abyss of my thoughts. I brought you here today to discuss what you saw. When I don't speak, he lets out a sharp exhalation, pinching the bridge of his nose between his thumb and forefinger. Your vision, he sneers, clearly losing his patience. Was it a continuation of what you saw during your placement exam? I shake my head. More like a missing piece out of the middle. His eyes flash behind his glasses as he leans toward me, folding his hands on the table. How does it end? His tone unnerves me, sending a jarring chill over my skin. I hesitate, and in this moment I'm more certain than ever that my life is in danger. That certainty reaffirms my need to escape. Dr. Richter pushes back his chair and jumps to his feet, slamming his fist down on the table in front of me. He raises his voice, shouting, How does it end? I notice the subtle twitch of his cheeks and the way sweat beads along his neatly combed hairline. His fingers curl inward until his hands are in fists, the knuckles straining white against the metal surface of the table. As his composure crumbles, I feel something that could almost be mistaken for happiness. For the first time since waking up in this horrible place, it's almost as if the roles are reversed. Now he's the one showing weakness. Now I'm the one with the power. We all die, I say with a smile.